Hi there, I'm Abdullah Babalola and these are your 3:30 p.m. Solent Sports headlines. Anderlecht have apologised for the behaviour of their fans during the 2-1 defeat to West Ham in the Europa Conference League on Thursday night. 13 people have been arrested following seats being thrown and flares set off amongst the travelling supporters. 2 police officers required hospital treatment, one for a suspected broken wrist while the second received stitches for a head injury. Southampton head of recruitment Joe Shields has agreed a deal to join Chelsea as their new co-director of recruitment in the past hour. The news was confirmed by Saints manager Ralph Hasenhüttl in his press conference ahead of their clash with West Ham on Sunday. Hasenhüttl believes that Shields' departure is not a big loss for the club because his impact was not the biggest. The football world is now fully focused on the upcoming Premier League weekend and there are some big fixtures to keep an eye on. One such fixture is Liverpool versus Manchester City, which plays on Sunday afternoon. Liverpool, fresh off beating Rangers 7-1 in the Champions League, will be trying to stop in-form City striker Erling Haaland from scoring his 16th Premier League goal. The Reds manager Jurgen Klopp had some high praise for the Norwegian forward.
Obviously, when you play against, probably for sure in the moment the best striker in the world, you have to make sure that he doesn't get that many balls. No, like physically, he sets new standards. So it's physically the combination of being really physical and technical and sensational awareness. His orientation on the pitch is exceptional. He knows always where the decisive gaps are, barely offside, reads that really well. So many things would make him a striker. And now in this specific case with City, some of the best players around him in the world. So in setting up goals, in finding the right moment for the passes, with Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, Mahrez, whoever. They all are really good at that. So that's a perfect fit, no doubt about that.
In the cricket, the final T20 between England and Australia has been concluded after rain stopped play. Australia were 30 for 3 in response to England's 112 for 2, with Joss Buttler hitting 65 of 41 balls. England won the series after claiming victories in the first 2 T20s. Clarissa Shields has accused Savannah Marshall of being a bully following their fiery meeting last night. Shields also believes that Marshall is scared of her and the American remains confident before their fight. The 2 women will clash tomorrow night at the O2 and will both be looking to win the undisputed middleweight title. Chris Eubank Sr. has accused the organisers of his son's fight with Conor Benn of wanting him to be an accomplice in his son's murder. Eubank Sr. slammed the event which required Eubank Jr. to lose serious weight to meet Benn, who was found to have used a banned substance in the lead-up. The event was set to go ahead before the British Boxing Board of Control found the substance in Benn the day before the bout. In golf, the PGA has suffered a huge blow after Phil Mickelson said he was glad to have picked the winning side between the new LIV Group and the PGA. The comments came after a number of players who signed for LIV were suspended from the PGA Tour, which has started a lawsuit scheduled for January 2024. Now over to the UFC. Internet sensation Hasbulla has signed a contract with the MMA group. The 3'4" tall 20-year-old, who is believed to have dwarfism, posted a picture on his Instagram confirming the deal. It is unknown who he will be fighting at the moment, with the size and weight restrictions being a limitation for finding opponents. Newcastle will host the opening game of the Rugby League World Cup tomorrow as England face favourites Samoa. 21-year-old winger Dom Young is set to make his Test debut at St James's Park against the Samoa side, tipped to win by bookmakers. Young is one of 6 uncapped players looking to feature in this game against the island nation. Our reporter Saj Rahman sat down with Rugby League commentator Sharon Shortall to get her take before kickoff.
Samoa have got some big names in their squad, as have quite a lot of the Pacific Island teams like Tonga and Fiji as well from the NRL. So they will come hoping to turn England over. On the flip side, England have had a warm-up game last week against Fiji and looked very good indeed. And from the squad that they've got available to them, it looks a pretty decent side as well. I think it'll be a close one. England might have the edge because they've had that warm-up game. Samoa are just coming together. But I think it'll be tight tomorrow. Hopefully, England will just sneak it as a home nation, as you say. But I think it'll be extremely tight, that one. And potentially, it'll be an absolute cracker to get the men's tournament started with.
And finally, now for some local sporting stories from around Southampton. A local boxing amateur is about to turn pro, despite only being in one fight. Albanian-born Valentino Marcu won his one and only fight 2 years ago, but hasn't had another one since due to COVID restrictions. He's now set to make his professional boxing debut in either November or December.
I'm Valentino Marcu, 27 years old, from Albania, and I'm fighting on 55 kilos.
This week, we went back to the pound-for-pound palace to interview boxer Valentino Marcu. Valentino would have made it as a professional boxer if it wasn't for COVID restrictions holding him back. We asked if, despite the 2-year setback, does he still believe in his ability?
After a few years, you know, I could see my skills, my ability. So yeah, I started believing in myself.
The bantamweight fighter has been fighting since 17 years old. We wanted to find out more about his past and how he got into boxing.
10 years ago, I was with a friend and we saw a commercial about kickboxing. So that's how it started, you know. We went there, I registered, and since then I've never stopped, you know.
Pound for Pound Palace is known for making good boxers into great ones. With an endless amount of trophies around the building and quotes and pictures of the world's biggest fighters, we asked the Albanian who he looks up to the most.
Yeah, I like to see Lomachenko. I like his style. He's southpaw like me. Canelo as well, and you know, some old boxers.
His first professional fight is next month, and despite his opponent not yet being announced, Marcu will believe that he is ready for the task ahead. Daniel Perry, Solent Sports News.
Thanks for that, Dan. Solent men's football first team made a convincing start to life under new manager Sami Lander with a 4-0 win over Gloucestershire University. A stunning strike from Louis Moore opened the scoring and paved the way for a dominant second-half display. We sent our correspondent Dylan Chavas to see how Landers is settling into his new role.
The start of a new year and plenty of new faces at Test Park, including a new gaffer in Sami Lander. His tenure as Solent first-team manager has gotten off to a great start with a 4-0 victory over the University of Gloucestershire. He spoke to keeper Ben Hayward about his time in charge so far.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been a really productive first week. Obviously, there was a lot to do because previous gaffer's gone and our squad's had a bit of a transition. So naturally, sort of been finding sort of new players that are going to fit our culture has been really interesting for me. Getting to know all the lads and then just getting my process underway and put my own little spin on things really, so it's been really productive so far.
Prior to the season getting underway, Lander spoke to his squad in depth at Test Park in a meeting which saw them align on some targets for the coming campaign.
And I think we'll keep that in-house for a moment so we don't have any unnecessary pressure on ourselves, but it's something that we've all aligned on as a squad. Like I just mentioned, there's no secret of the success that you guys had last year, but there's a few considerations to take of 7 or 8 new squad members, a new gaffer, a new league.
Great technique, you. Good backing him up, G.
Lander made use of a famous optical illusion to illustrate what he wants from his team this season.
Because if we don't align, we're not gonna sort of be agreed on how we want to play, what we want to achieve. Okay, so for example, if we're 1-0, if we're 1-1 away from home, all right, a few of you just put your hand up for the rabbit, sorry. That's keep the point. Yeah, that's take the point. We're going to go home with a point. We're happy. Okay, the duck might be, let's go for 2-1. I want us to win the game. Okay, now we all have to be on the same page.
Lander previously worked at AFC Wimbledon under the unique title of substitutes coach and explained his work there to us, as well as explaining how it could benefit his side this coming year.
Effectively, the most sort of easy way to put it is that I think the way that the game's going, everything is transitioning to sort of the most effective way. And it's happened to set pieces, movements, mindsets, there's specialist coaches for all of it. Substitutes is something that I think is quite often overlooked, and I think it's the next part of the game to be modernised. And all I sort of did was create a concept around that allowed me to almost get the most effective substitutes for teams.
Here's a little taster of what the team got up to in their first session under the new gaffer. Everyone will be hoping for a repeat of last year's league and cup double, and although it will be harder in a tougher league, the early signs are definitely encouraging. Dylan Chavas, Solent Sports News.
Thanks for that, Dylan. Let's hope the boys are in for another successful season. The Solent Kestrels basketball team are getting ready for their first doubleheader of the season this weekend. The side will travel up to Newcastle for a game on Saturday before returning back down to London for the Sunday fixture. Reporter Ben Hayward is with Kestrel's head coach Ben Stanley ahead of the long weekend.
Thanks for that, guys. I'm here at Solent Sports Complex ahead of Solent Kestrel's double-header fixture at the weekend. I'm here with Ben, head coach of the team. Ben, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you, Ben.
Well, it's quite unorthodox at the weekend, Ben, as you're travelling over to Newcastle first and then over to London on Sunday. How's the preparation been for this weekend?
It's been very good. We didn't have a great practice Monday. Guys weren't really clicking, but then Thursday we had a really good practice. Guys have been really locked in, really prepared. We had a little walk through this morning, so we're feeling good.
That's good. And how do you think the travel will affect the boys? Because obviously it's a little bit, like I say, it's a little bit unorthodox going over all the way up to Newcastle and then back down to the south on Sunday morning. Do you think that'll affect the boys at all?
I think it'll be difficult. It's part of the reason we're going up today instead of trying to do 6 hours tomorrow. But at the same time, they're all experienced. They've all been through it. They know how to look after their bodies. We'll do some things to take care of them over the weekend. So I think they'll be fine. I think the main thing is they're all ready to play a game. So.
Absolutely, I'm glad.
Thanks for that, Ben, and go Kestrels. Southampton Football Club have announced that they plan to launch a new face-to-face support programme at St Mary's Stadium called Saints by Your Side. This news comes in light of World Mental Health Day and will be run by Saints Foundation in partnership with Hampshire and Isle of Wight Integrated Care Board. Our correspondent Liam Jones spoke to Sam Clark, who works for Solent Minds, about the new game.
My name is Sam Clark and I'm the Digital Content Officer at Solent Mind and I'm also one of the hosts for the Let's Talk Mate podcast. Yeah, I think it's huge. I think, sports clubs and players have this huge platform to make a difference. Like, they're role models. That's what every football player is. That's what every sports team is. They're role models to this greater cause. And you've got these kids who can now grow up, especially with the platform that Saints provides and then the ingrades into community that the Saints Foundation provides. You've got kids who can come up and normalise the conversation around mental health. So it doesn't always have to be this conversation of you reach a point where you're really low and you're at crisis. The tribalism, I think, is a big thing in sport, especially football. If we're talking football here, the tribalism is massive, that you see the kind of very visceral hatred that brings out of people. You could almost avoid the criticism and the harsh criticism if you're a player back in the 80s or 90s, if you didn't read the newspapers, if you didn't watch the TV. Now you can't really avoid it. It's everywhere you go, especially if you're running your own social media. And then, of course, you've got the racism, the homophobia. Again, people feel like they can do this because they're on a faceless profile, because there's no consequences to these actions. And a lot of people want to use sport as their outlet for their mental health.
Thanks for that, Liam. That's all the sporting news we have for you today. Thanks for tuning in, and goodbye.